Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farmer, the podcast. I'm your host, JC Young, and today's topic of discussion is this: financial problems lead to real problems. Now, today's concept is going to resonate with a lot of you because at the end of the day, if you are going through any struggling time where you're trying to figure out finances and you're constantly worried about money, it's like welcome to the club, right? This is where a majority of people in America are. But when it comes to the ag industry, especially in a year like this year where we got low grain prices and things like that, a lot of people are stuck in financial scarcity, which is exactly why I had to build out training for our community and Legacy Farmer on how to overcome financial scarcity and kind of put things into perspective for people as well. But anyways, back to the topic at hand here. A lot of people are worried about finances, right? They're worried about money. And again, when it comes to the ag industry, this is something that we're heavily focused on today, and you should be. The thing is that a lot of people like to tell themselves a story, myself included, by the way. I'm kind of telling you my own personal journey and personal story here as well. A lot of people like to tell themselves that once they fix their financial challenges or problems, that everything will come together in their life. Now, you may not necessarily be wrong. The problem is, though, is that once you fix the financial problems, all you're left with are the real problems in your life. And so what do I mean by that? Everybody comes into Legacy Farm because first and foremost, they have financial problems and, they're either trying to run a business and deep down, they don't know their numbers. They have no way to structure and organize their numbers. They're getting, a higher interest rate than what they should be. They don't know how to negotiate those terms with the bank. They don't know what their position is with the bank. They don't have the ability to do any tax planning, whatever, right? So at the end of the day, the financial seat in your business is one of the most important seats, if not the most important seat, because that is the foundation that runs the entire business. If you don't have your finances in order, you're screwed long-term and you will not survive forever. You could survive for a while, but ultimately long-term, you are going to be exposed there. Now, everybody wants to solve those problems. And the thing is that when it comes to solving the financial problem, for some people, it's pretty quick. For others, it could take a couple years, honestly, to do that because it involves making behavioral changes and really challenging a person's internal identity and getting them open and willing to shift the way they think about their business, the actions that they take, and ultimately where they're going, right? And what they're willing to do to accomplish that long-term vision that they have for themselves and their family. And again, for some people, it takes a couple of years. For some of our customers, they're in for a month and they got their numbers and everything organized, and then everything really starts to take off from there, and they're able to find profits and negotiate interest rates and really start to turn around the way that they look at their business and the financial decisions that they're making. Now, going back to kind of the point of this podcast is everybody wants to solve those financial problems. But then what do I mean by you're only left with the real problems after that? We have some members in our group that have built multi-million dollar operations. And I'm talking in the realm of $30 to $60 million net worths for these people, and really just great people, genuine people. They're trying to build something great for the next generation. Some of them are first generation, some of them are fourth generation, right? And they're carrying on everything. Now, the challenge is, though, is that from a financial standpoint, some of them, when they first came in, they didn't have their finances together, but now they have their finances together. And, obviously with that size of a balance sheet, there's options there, right? They're profitable. They know what they're doing. They just didn't have a way to really structure and organize their numbers visually so that they could look at it and use that to drive their decisions and really get the system set up for the next generation to be able to look at the numbers, because a lot of people that have built that size of an operation, they've done it in their head, and there's very few people that can actually do that with their numbers in their head and keep all this stuff cataloged and be able to access it and use it the right way. A majority of us, like myself, has to have something laid out on, right? And like a majority of our customers that come into Legacy Farmer. But the thing is, though, is even after building a huge operation, the real problems come out. And what do I mean by the real problems? When you are trying to build something great with your life, it is going to involve you sacrificing the people that you love the most and sacrificing time and energy spent with people that you are essentially building this business for, right? Building this lifestyle for, building this vision for. And the thing is that people want to try to, downplay how much that can impact your life. And the truth is that there's a heavy toll that comes with that, right? That's a heavy price to pay. And so I share this with you because even if we have customers that come into Legacy Farmer that are financially sound and really strong there, again, all that you're left with after you solve the financial problems are the real problems. So we're talking about relationships with spouses that have been hurt because of decades of sacrificing time and energy away from your family to build the business, right? Decades of sacrificing time missing games or kids events or whatever that is because you're trying to build the business. Sacrificing handling problems or crucial conversations with your family because the easy out for you was, I got to go build the business, right? So that's just on the balance standpoint of, working with family. Then we have also the body body component, right? So in Legacy Farmer, we talk about Core 4. That was taught to me by Garrett J. White, who's my first mentor that I had really. And he talks about Core 4, which is body, being, balance, and business. And so the next one for this type of scenario, though, can lead to body, where people, that they've destroyed their body over the years because they're so focused on building the business. All health and kind of logic there goes out the window because they're just trying to, stuff food down their face, or they get home at the end of the day, they're so hungry and tired that they don't care what they eat. They don't work out. They don't take care of themselves. And we run into health issues there as well. The other thing, though, too, is, and where you can really start to have problems here, is once you get to that age where you have built the business to this level and you're in your 50s or 60s and you're looking back at your life and you're like, man, was this worth it? Should I have done all this based on how my family looks at me now? Should I have, gotten out of the tractor, stopped working cattle and went to the kids' game back then, or spent more time with the family and everything? And guys, I'm not saying that I have this figured out either, because I'm driven to build something as well. This is something I very much struggle with internally as well, because I have a responsibility to my customers in Legacy Farmer, but I have an internal responsibility to just accomplishing what I want to accomplish. And again, it's for my family. But at the end of the day, I can't just work my life away and sacrifice time and energy away from them. And that's tough, right? But again, going back to this scenario, if you're in your 50s and 60s and you're looking back at your life and now you're just cataloging and all this stuff is coming up for you on all the mistakes, and you're able to pull out all these years. You remember back in the 80s, this happened, or 90s, this happened, or 2007, this happened. And all those big points in your life that were just really impactful there, where there's either massive fights that took place, there was big events that you missed, there was times that you felt like you failed your family. All that stuff comes rushing in at one time, it feels like, for a lot of people, because you've spent so many decades trying to build this thing for the next generation, and you sit here now and you are questioning yourself. And from a being standpoint, right, the second part of Core 4, which is all about your mental health and the stories that you tell yourself up here, and it's also about your connection to God or your spirituality, whatever you want to call it. But those stories, though, start to get really heavy for you, right? And you start to beat yourself up internally. And you have to have the awareness that you're doing this so that you can ultimately correct it. And we talk about tools and stuff that we use inside of Legacy Farmer there to help us through that stage. But it can weigh on, and I'm just speaking from the man's perspective, it can weigh on a husband, right? Or a father, for sure, because you are sacrificing so much to build this for your family. And from your family's eyes, it looks like you just don't care. And that's not the case at all for a majority of the people that I know, especially in Legacy Farmer. 100% of the men in Legacy Farmer are really good people, and deep down, they will take the perspective that they may get from their spouse. And hopefully this isn't happening, right? I'm just talking about with some of our members, and sometimes myself included as well, right? Just throwing myself under the bus there too. I feel like, even my wife and children don't get the right perspective on who I am as a person, because deep down, what I'm trying to build is something great for them and great for us, and the lifestyle that they, I want them to be able to experience that I never got to experience. And, just opportunity, right? A great life full of, again, experiences that I never got to go, experience, and not have to worry about finances and all that type of stuff as well. Now, do I want to spoil my kids? No. I'm still trying to figure out how to battle that line there. But again, though, I'm willing to take the heat on that and how I look in order to accomplish that long-term vision, just like some of these other members were that I'm talking about right now. They're in the 50s and 60s. But again, though, it's like a balance, guys. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't think there is a right answer. It's just, how do you want to be perceived by your family there long term? And what are the actions you need to take today to try to change that perception, right? Or what are the conversations you need to take today? Because again, it's tough for men like us to expose how we really feel about a situation or why we are doing what we are doing. And we have to know how to create the space with our spouses or our children to explain that, right? And really have that understanding. Whereas a majority of men, the first time they start getting pushback from their spouse on, you don't really care about us, or you never show up, or you should be here, or whatever, the first thing that men do for the most part is just shut down, right? Go back to work. I'm saying we can hopefully try to solve this and get better at it if we are just open to, one, when that situation happens, we're willing to collide, not argue, right? Not conflict, but collide with our spouse and say, okay, great, let's have a crucial conversation here. And let me tell you, open up a little bit around how I feel as a husband or a father and what I really want to build for my family. Now, yeah, guys, I mean, this is just a podcast episode, but man, those are heavy problems that people want to pretend don't exist, that I know are there for every real man or woman that's trying to build a business inside of this country. Because there's supposed to be sacrifices. There are going to be sacrifices in order to achieve that long-term goal, but you have to weigh, the cost that you're willing to pay to get there, and be able to face those problems head on when they first hit, versus letting them sit there and just compound for years and years and years. Because again, you get into your 50s and 60s and you start looking back and you're like, man, all those problems, now I get to deal with them now, right? Because financially we're good, but now I get to deal with the body problems, the being problems, and the balance problems, which is dealing with your wife and kids or your spouse and kids at home. Not trying to just target this towards men, but I'm just speaking from that term here because I am a dude. So that's the viewpoint that I look at it. And again, we just got to be willing to have these conversations as husbands and wives and make sure that there's an understanding here and being intentional about creating that space to have that conversation. Because if I am not doing that, then I'm going to operate a certain way where I'm not going to meet my wife's needs or expectations around being at, our girls' events or things like that. So we just got to be intentional about creating that space. And it's tough too. When you have young kids and stuff like we do, it's tough about creating that space there. And we struggle it as well, just like everybody else does. But I share this podcast episode with you though, guys, because even if you're focused on fixing the financial problems, yes, they need to be fixed, but understand the real problems come after that, right? And so be prepared to handle that. And that's the type of stuff that we work on a Legacy Farm, where it's not, yes, we're focused on finances and helping people there, but then, everything in our community is about, one, yeah, we're sharing what's working and not working in business and mistakes that we've made and things that, people shouldn't do if they don't want to pay this ultimate price. But we also create the space to have those conversations about family and challenges and things that we're dealing with on the body being a balance front as well, which I think is extremely important. We like to pretend that we can separate out personal life and business, and it's not possible, guys. And in my opinion, it's really not possible. When you're a business owner, your mind doesn't shut off, and it's really hard to be intentional about shutting it off and not have to focus on the business there, because at the end of the day, I love it, right? I love the challenge of business. I love building businesses. I love learning and growing there. So that's like, to me, everybody says, get your hobby. That's my hobby. Like, I love it. I like it. So anyways, that's what I'm going to spend my time doing. So, all right, guys, at the end of the day, hopefully you took away some lessons from this podcast here. And hopefully you are looking at your life a little bit differently and making some different decisions going forward. And maybe there's some crucial conversations you need to have. But at the end of the day, I do not want to be a 50 or 60-year-old that's looking back at life full of regret because I didn't handle those conversations or didn't make different decisions when I was younger, when rowdy as I should have, right? So anyways, that concludes today's episode, my friend. Hope you found it valuable. We will catch you on the next one.